Welcome back to the Now What Podcast. I'm your host, Arian Foster, Bobby Fino, a.k.a. the Pod God, and I got...
Pod God.
The Pod God. Yeah, we ran with it. They liked it.
All right,
yeah,
it fits if it goes.
So, I have a legend. I'm in his building. I usually say in the building, but I'm in your building, so I appreciate you lending us your office space.
Well, thanks for coming by to visit. Wife said, let's do it.
Man, I got Neil deGrasse Tyson blessing me with his presence, man. How you doing, boss?
It's good. Universe is fine. It's Earth that messed up. I got the universe.
100%. Man, so I mean, I could delve into so many topics because you're like a walking almanac. But I want to start with a little bit with your journey and how you fell in love with what it is that you do today. And you're an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And I want to. What was your moment when you understood that science was your passion and your love? I'm gonna let you finish before because mine was you. It wasn't until you released. I don't remember what it was originally on Nova.
Yeah, I hosted a Nova Science Now,
and so
that was the name of the show.
When I first saw those, I was an adult. I went throughout my high school and college career not caring about math or science,
not even thinking about it.
And then I had some free time, and I stumbled upon it, and it happened to be before the Cosmos.
Yeah,
and I was listening to the explanations, and I fell in love with the intricacies of how you were explaining things, and it just made me. It really changed my life, and it changed the way I thought. It changed the way I perceived the universe, and how
I don't always know that that's what's going on the other side of the camera.
Right, you're just talking to them.
I'm just talking. It's like, damn, that's putting pressure on me.
It's heavy. It's heavy, and
it's heavy.
I always. It's rare that you get to tell somebody that they influenced you like that. So I just wanted to say that.
You know what I've done since I've become more well-known is I've written to authors of books that I read when I was in middle school and in high school that were pivotal to my interest.
Right.
And just say to them, because now I guess I could have written to them before and it still would have mattered. I think authors like knowing if they influence somebody. But I have enough visibility now that I think it means that much more for them to receive a note from me. And 100%. So I've been doing that. I've actually gone back and found some authors. Those that aren't dead.
That's awesome, though, man. That's awesome.
No, I was young. I was age 9, and a first visit to the Hayden Planetarium, my local planetarium, which happens to be this planetarium. Wow. We're in my office at the Hayden Planetarium right now, of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and I'm now its director. So that story plays better in small towns.
That's what the young kids call a flex.
A flex?
You flexing.
Yeah, no. Flexing No, it's just to say a hometown kid comes back and runs the thing. I say that to a New Yorker and they say, yeah, and your point is. No, it's not as much a story in a big city.
Right.
But I can tell you that when I came here as a kid to meet the scientists and educators who were on staff has imparted in me a sense of duty, an honor and duty to ensure that any next generation who comes through here is no less impacted positively by their journey through science that I was by the scientists and educators of long ago. So I just sat in the dome and the lights turned out and the sky came out. I thought it was a hoax because I'd seen the night sky from the Bronx.
Right.
That's where I'm from.
Not the same.
Still might have my Bronx hat up here. Yeah, here.
Yeah, that's right there.
Yeah, the Bronx hat.
There it is.
So I was born in the Bronx and raised. Went to high school there. Went to the Bronx High School of Science. And by the way, that high school has 8 Nobel laureates among its graduates. 7 in physics, 1 in chemistry. That's as many Nobel laureates as the country of Spain.
Wow.
So it's a very serious concentration of energy and interest at that school. And they remain to this day the most formative years of my life.
How did you get to go to that?
Oh, so it's, sorry, local people would know, but if you're from out of town, that's a public school.
Oh.
But you take a test to get in. And because it has the word science in its title, it attracts people who were doing well in school but also have an interest in science, typically. So it's a funneling device that puts us all together, and we have very geeky times. Like, think about it, how much time you spend doing nothing between classes, on a study break. Nobody's studying in a study break. During lunch, when you're just hanging out. Whereas in that school, we were talking about Einstein's, whatever you just learned in chemistry or physics class, that's what you're talking about. And I remember we learned about a series of French mathematicians, Laplace, Lagrange. They all had sort of theorems and formulas named after them. And there was a friend of mine, a classmate, I never forget this. His name was Frank Laurice. So he was imagining the Laurice equations because we just learned about the French mathematicians. And that's the kind of ambitions that are coursing through these corridors. So from age 9 right on up through middle school, high school, college, through the PhD in astrophysics. So I've known basically, it's my earliest care. My earliest love for anything was a love of the universe.
That is a microcosm of what I feel a healthy society should be. Like I'm on record saying I think the best and most productive society would be full of scientists and artists. Like just nothing but scientists and artists. Because I just feel like we started this snowball effect.
No football players?
Nah. I mean, I guess that's a form of entertainment / art. You can throw it in there, sports. But I think we just started this snowball effect of economics and capitalism and the life that I feel like we're, I don't want to say supposed to because that has a connotation, but I think the life that would be the most fulfilling would be that of just imagine a society where all the corridors and all the hallways and recesses they're talking about equations and they're talking about like that because to me that's the most fundamental thing, like
about
learning
the universe.
Yeah, you learning about yourself in a sense.
Well, so in that vein, allow me to say that when you tour cities around the world, what do you comment on? Their art, their culture. And if they had great architecture and there's science embedded within the architecture, if they made discoveries, that's kind of all that remains of a civilization as time goes on.
Wow.
Their art. And you travel to see that.
Yeah.
That's what matters. It reminds me, I met someone, I was at some conference, and they were visiting from overseas, from Scandinavia. It was in Florida. And they were on their way to St. Augustine. It was one of the oldest settlements in North America. There's some old church there from 1600s. They said, we want to go see this old church in this old settlement. I said, you live in Europe, right? And they said, yeah. And they said, have you seen an old church before? In Europe? Yeah. Churches from like the 13th century. So I said, so you don't come to America to see our old churches because first, they're not that old relative to your stuff. Second, you should come to America and see what no one else does. He was in Florida. I said, go to Kennedy Space Center. Go look at the launch pad that sent Apollo 11 to the moon.
Nobody in America goes to see that.
I said, but then you will understand what it was to be an American. We spent a chapter of our nation's history valuing the science and technology of great achievements, and they called me back after and said, yeah, that they were happy I made that recommendation because they wanted to see America.
Do you feel like that's still the case in our society?
No.
I don't.
Sadly,
yeah, I agree.
There's a little bit of it. You know, you get Elon Musk who's trying to drag us kicking and screaming into the future.
Yeah.
And I'm not always aligned with his ideas because I think some are like out there.
Right.
But somebody's got to be thinking that way just to drag the center of mass of everybody else so that something happens. I'm tired of waiting around just for the next app. And that's somehow the measure of living in the future. There's so many places that great advances can occur in energy, in transportation, in housing, in food production. There are these major elements of our infrastructure that can benefit from creativity and science and technology, taking us into the future that we all dreamt we'd be living in today.
Yeah. And this is what bothers me. This is why I'm stuck in my pessimism. It's because, like, imagine I hate it sounds elitist, but imagine everybody thought like that. Like, where would we be? Like, we're just. I just feel like, and granted, I've taken a little bit of a backseat on this because I feel like a lot of people are just so worried about staying above water. I get it, and so a lot of their escape is just the the gossip and the entertainment, right? I get that part of it, but that's why I felt like it was a snowball effect of capitalism and our foundation of what our society is today. I just feel like it's the wrong way to structure a society.
Let me restate what I think you just said. What you're saying is we have created ways of spending our time that does not stimulate creative thinking or ideas about inventing a future. They're feeding our most base needs of entertainment.
1,000%.
Is that a fair way to encapsulate what you just said?
Way more eloquent, by the way.
And like you said, in all fairness to those where they're just trying to stay above water, so they come home, show me the reality TV just so I can escape to whatever might be my daily routine. Yeah. Right. That's not who we're talking about here. We're talking about others who in their spare time say, oh, let me make even more money.
Yeah.
Let me try to do something that will not necessarily accrue to the advance of our civilization and culture.
Well, I think I'm talking about the other ones too.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gonna bring them in, drag them in? All right.
But just for the
you're gonna get the mail. This is your podcast
for sure. They already know it's an ongoing thing. With
ongoing thing.
But just for the mere fact that everybody's higher self, it doesn't come unless there's some kind of discomfort. Like, and so
that is a sadly true fact.
Yeah, and so it's so easy to turn your brain off and watch whatever you want to watch. It's so hard to pick up a book that you've been telling yourself you're going to pick up.
There's a famous author, I forgot who said, "There's no greater pain to the human mind than the effort to come up with a new idea." Here's a microcosm of that. And I realized this when I was in college, and I started thinking, I spent a lot of my life taking multiple choice tests. And I said, I wonder if that's affecting my creativity. And my sister, 4 years younger, in high school at the time, I came home from college, and I was going to take her out to lunch. I said, let's go out to lunch. And I said, where would you like to go? She said, what are my choices?
Wow.
And I thought to myself, come up with something.
All right.
Think of something new.
Right.
Think of a restaurant whose name you can't pronounce.
Right.
Think of something, but she's presuming there's a pre-existing set that you just pick from. And then you look at the cash register at McDonald's, and there's pictures of food on the number on the buttons.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't type in the number, how much it costs. Just push the Big Mac button. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that you'd have a new idea is a foreign concept, and that's unfortunate. And I don't know, does everyone have to have access to new ideas for society to move forward? I don't know. Is it just a subset? Is it the right subset? I don't have answers there. But I agree 100% with your analysis.
I think that's the issue. I don't think because I know people in my life where their goal is to just be happy. They want to eat good food, hang out with their friends. And I feel like that's a good life worth living. I'm not that we can set those people aside, but for the people who I think have the ability and the resources to push the mold, I don't think we've created a culture to cultivate that in this society. And that's my issue.
You know what I tell people? I get this question all the time in my public talks. Someone asks, what advice do you have for an up-and-coming student to study sciences or anything? And then I give them an unorthodox answer. I say, take the hardest possible classes you can, without regard to how much lower your grade might become for having done so. Think of the urge we have to take the easy classes so that you get an A. Well, why do you do this? Oh, because you want a high GPA. Why? So that at the end, someone looks at your GPA as the single encapsulating datum for your whole life, and they pass judgment on you based on that GPA. Well, if you get a high grade in an easy class, the class is easy because everyone else can get high grades too. Right. So when it comes time to picking the person who can solve the problem, you're just one of 100 who can. You take the hard class, the one that challenges, where most people don't take it, where some people take it and then drop out, and you figure out that class. At the end of the day, people will beat a path to your door and not to others. And when you get old enough, no one is asking you your GPA. Forget that you play football. Yes, no one's going to ask you your GPA because you play football. But even if you didn't play football, you're 30, low 30s now, they're still not asking you your GPA. Ask anyone your age in the workforce. Say, when's the last time someone asked you your GPA? I don't know. Right. The first job, okay, when they were 22. Right. After that, they asked, were you a hard worker? Were you moral? Are you a good problem solver? Right. And you ask other questions that matter in the actual world. Right. So I say take hard classes even if you have to get a B. Because the day will come when no one will care that you got a B, but it will matter that you know how to solve hard problems.
That's great advice.
And let me give you another example, a slightly tangential example. Let's say I'm an architect and I have one internship over the summer. I have two candidates, and they're basically identical on paper. It's time for the interview. So one of them walks in, and I say, this is a contrived example, but you'll get the point. I say, all right, there's a church steeple out the window. Do you know how tall that church steeple is? Oh, yes, I do. It's 135 feet. I said, how do you know? All right, I memorized all the heights of the major structures in every city. Okay. Next candidate comes in. I tell her, do you know how tall that church steeple is out there? She says, no. I'll get right back to you. She disappears for 10 minutes, comes back. Somewhere between 132 and 138 feet, somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure. So how did you figure it out? Well, I know how tall I am. I measured my height, the length of my shadow. Oh. Then I measured the shadow of the church steeple, ratioed that, and I got the height of the church steeple. Who are you going to hire?
That one.
That one. You're going to hire that one.
No question.
No question
No
about
question.
it. You're going to hire the person who figured something out.
Right.
And problem solving is, I think, undervalued in our society. It's how much do you remember for this exam? How much did you memorize?
That was always my problem. That's why I hated school. And even as somebody where academics wasn't my, it wasn't my main core. Like I knew I wasn't going to be a scientist in my head, right? That's what I hated about science. It didn't. I mean, I'm not science. That's what I hated about school. Was it didn't. My buddy always says it the best. He says school fills a bucket. It doesn't light a fire, and that was always my issue. Like I would have something that I was interested in, and then I don't think I ever had, and maybe I wasn't ready, right? But I don't think I ever had that one teacher that was like, show me the universe to wow me, to awe me. And I'm not trying to blame my
light my fire.
Yeah. And
right.
But I think it's the educational system. How do you feel about the educational system as it's set up?
Don't get me started. But I'm thinking, I'm working on that now. Most of my ideas are still in the oven, which technically makes them half baked. But let me just say that
I like it.
One of my thoughts is, think about it. If not ourselves, we know people who on the last day of school, let's say just before summer, last day of school, they'll run down the steps, toss their notebooks in the air and say, school's out. There's even a rock song, school is out forever. I forgot who sang that. It's a classic rock.
That's out my ass. I grew up on vinyls.
You are right. I'm sure that
Parliament
one appeared.
and Confunction.
I'm sure. I remember Confunction. Forgot all about them until just now. Confunction, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's okay. So we view school as a chore rather than as a celebration. When your only job is to learn, and somehow that has been made a chore.
Yeah.
That, of course, some people also have to work. I get that, but schools, you only go there to learn. There's not a whip, there's no blood, there's no toil. You just have to learn. And at the end, it accrues to you and to no one else. And somehow people hate it. To this day, if you will say, stop lecturing me. I don't want to be lectured to. That's what goes on in school. And that becomes a bad word in adulthood.
I never connect that.
That's what I'm saying, right? So we tolerate it in school, and afterwards you don't want to be lectured to. So, I'm not done.
No, my fault. Go ahead.
So my point is, I think schools need to rethink what goes on in the classroom. Yes, it relates to, are you filling a bucket or are you lighting a fire? It relates to that. At the end of the day, I think the number one priority should be, instilling eternal curiosity in your students, because you will spend many more years of your life not in school than in school.
Yeah.
And if you come out of school curious, then everything you don't know, you say, I wonder how that works. Let me go find out.
Yeah.
Not, I don't, rather than not wondering how it works.
Right.
And just walking through life like the world is happening to you, rather than you are taking control of your own arc, your own trajectory. So for me, I like to say that kids are curious. They're born curious. In fact, you have any kids yet?
4.
4 kids. What's the youngest?
1, so 16 months.
Oh, no, congratulations.
Yeah,
okay.
thank you, man.
So half of your job when you're in the presence of that kid is to make sure they don't die from their own curiosity.
Yeah.
Think about it.
For sure.
Right, that's what it is, right?
100%.
Oh, don't touch that. Don't put your finger there.
Keep them alive.
Keep them alive. Well, what are you keeping them alive from? From their own curiosity. So they walk up to the ledge. So don't go there. There's a knife. Don't play with the knife. Don't play in the doorway.
It's all day.
It's all day. You spend the first year of their life teaching them to walk and talk, and the rest of their life telling them to shut up and sit down. When what is a scientist? A scientist is a kid who never lost that curiosity. Every day there's something, gee, I'd never seen that before. I wonder what it is, and then I get closer to it. I don't have any books on that. Let me get a book on that. And so I'm just manifesting curiosity that every 8-year-old kid has, except I'm an adult now.
Right.
And I have institutions that support me when I do that.
So you just never grew up.
I never grew up. I'm still a kid. I have other kid things. Like I'm on several boards, like really important boards.
Right.
But if you go in a boardroom, they have really swivelly chairs. So don't laugh at me. So I get in the chair. I just go, how swivelly is this one? And I just swivel around.
Oddly enough, there's no swivelly.
No, these are not swivelly chairs. Those are. So I know it's not a mature thing to do in a boardroom, but that's what I do. I also, if no one's looking, I'll lick my plate. If no one is looking, at the end of a milkshake, I'm doing the because it gets really noisy at the end. Yeah. There's some things I do. If there's a puddle, I'll jump in it.
That and it's like I watch that religiously because I see like all my kids, and they will run towards 100 miles towards a puddle,
A muddy puddle.
and jump in it.
Yes, let me tell you something.
And I let them.
Thank you. Thank you. I was in Central Park. It had just rained. I saw a mother and child, I presume it's the mother, and a small child. And the child had on the whole rain gear and everything. Yeah. And there was a puddle that had collected in one of the sidewalks of Central Park. And they're walking towards it, and the kid was eyeing it. And I said, let the kid jump in the puddle. Let the kid. I knew there was and what did the mother do? Pull the kid around the puddle. And I said, damn, you have just foiled an experiment in cratering. If it's a muddy puddle, because you'll make a crater. Or an experiment in fluid dynamics. Where does the water go and why? How high does it splash? All because you don't want to clean the coat. Well, you didn't have kids so that you'd maintain a clean house. That was the wrong.
Those are facts.
Basic parent facts.
Yeah.
All right. Disorder is the order of a house. And so
I like that.
So the disorder comes about because your kids are experimenting. And what you want to do is nurture the experimenting. Yeah, you don't want them to die, but you can set up other things that they can experiment on where they will not bring harm to themselves.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm thinking about all this. Some of it's still in the oven. Others has come out and is already making good, tasty bits.
There's that old quote that Einstein said. It's like I'm a butcher. It was like if you judge a fish by how he climbs a tree, you're going to think he's dumb or whatever.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah. Oh,
is
really?
that Einstein?
Did I just teach you something?
Yes.
I just want to sit in this moment right now. I just want to.
If you judge a fish
by how it climbs a tree, you're going to think he's ignorant.
You're going to think it's dumb. Really good.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great feeling. I mean,
that is good.
But anyway, so.
I got another one like that.
Uh-huh.
You want to hear this one?
Yeah,
It's from Nietzsche. It's those who were dancing were judged to be insane by those who could not hear the music.
That's a little more poetic. Yeah, I like that one.
That one. Just think about it.
That was nice.
If you're behind a glass wall and you see people just
Yeah, yeah.
and you don't hear the music,
Yeah.
there's no other accounting for their behavior,
They're
but there's something
crazy.
wrong with them.
Yeah, they're
They're just
crazy.
like some crazy folk.
Right.
So I've always thought about that. What that has allowed me as an educator to wonder, what is the music that each person is listening to, and it could be different for every person.
I think
for every student.
and the
So I will not judge them as anything until I figure out what tune they're listening to.
although I'm a pessimist, that is the optimist in me that I believe and everybody has their own song, and you just have to figure out what it is. Look at us dancing. I like it.
That's it. That's it.
So
No, I want to try to get you to not be a pessimist.
it's tough.
I want you to be a realist.
Okay.
Okay, there's a middle ground between pessimist and optimist.
And it's a realist.
It's a realist. Okay. So, do you know the old joke about what is it? The physicist, the mathematician, and the engineer. Okay.
I don't think
Or the pessimist, the optimist, and the engineer. Okay. So the pessimist says the glass is half empty. Mm-hmm. The optimist says the glass is half full. Mm-hmm. The engineer says you have water in a vessel that's inappropriate for, that's the wrong size for its task. Okay, because the engineer is solving problems.
Right.
So if the glass is half full of water, you need a smaller glass. Otherwise, you're wasting the glass.
Okay,
right?
I got
You
you.
can use that glass for some other task in the project.
Right.
So that's how the engineer looks at it. Mm-hmm. The Buddhist looks at it as it just is. Mm. It's not there to be judged. Mm. It's a vessel that has water in it. Mm-hmm. To judge where it is from the bottom to the top is an exercise in, I would say, an exercise in tribalism. Mm. What you're doing is you're trying to say, you're trying to distinguish how you view something from how someone else views it, and then choose sides because of it.
To that point, let me challenge you there. This is part of what you influenced me to eventually arrive at this conclusion. I believe that there's an objective reality. Okay? So, and I believe that
the good thing about objective realities, so you don't have to believe it. It's just true.
I agree.
That's the good thing about objective realities.
I
you can
agree.
say you believe in Jesus. You believe. I can list 20 things you can say you believe in.
Yeah.
You don't have to say you believe in objective realities. Okay.
You do though. This is
No. I'm saying
this is why I'm a pessimist.
This is what I said. The good thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe in it.
Right.
Okay. So now go on.
And so one of the big reasons why I'm a pessimist is because I believe it is of my belief that I don't know how else to put this, but logical thinking is a correct way to form thoughts. As correct as it to the degree that we know what correct is, right? So, and the reason why is because it brought us to where we are today, where our advances in technology, medicine, everything enhances with the logical thought process. And there's a methodology behind that, which is how you keep the lights on. And
that is what I'm paid to do.
Yeah.
And I get the bill and I pay the bill.
Yeah.
Keeping the lights on.
That's how you keep the lights on. Gotcha.
You sound like your father. I keep the lights on, and that's a very. See, you're getting old.
I'm old soul.
You got
man.
a rocking chair on the porch now.
See, I had these sayings when I was a kid too.
That's what I'm saying.
It was weird.
That's right.
But so when I look at our society, I don't think the general public at large has the same regard for the logical way of thinking as I do. And I'm not saying that we cannot come to inaccurate conclusions, but what I'm saying is it's the best possible way that we have developed as humans. And so my pessimism stems from we're still having conversations about if this is a good system or not. And I don't know how to remedy that other than just or just cast it like that's stupid. Like I don't.
Okay, I can't argue against that. But what I will do is let me offer nuances that you might not have considered. Okay, the cameras can't see it, but on the back wall of my office is Van Gogh's Starry Night. Mm-hmm. There's nothing logical about that painting. There's nothing logical about Van Gogh's creativity, his sunflowers, the hay growing in the field. It's impressionistic. It's not what the universe looked like at the time he painted it. Mm. It's what the universe felt like. Mm. And what I want artists to do for me is not bring logic to this world, but bring feelings to this world. And in that way, we are reminded of what it is to be human, because we can feel. We can feel love, hate, anguish, joy. And I don't think an earthworm has emotion. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even know what emotion is. But we have that. And those are the reminders of what it is to be alive. You had reminders in the NFL. You hurt Monday morning. That's a reminder that you're alive. Go ask any 90-year-old person to say, how do you feel in the morning? Well, I'm in severe pain, but consider the alternative.
Consider the alternative.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yep. And I'm also reminded, I heard a Native American say this, and I've brought it to heart ever since. Someone asked him, he was an elder, the temperature dropped a little. He said, are you cold? I can make you warmer. He says, yes, but that's okay. I said, well, why? It's another way to feel the world that I'm in. Mm. Think about all the things we do to narrow the exposure of your senses to the world. Yeah. Temperature drops below 70. Oh, put on the heat. Goes above 76 degrees. Put on the air conditioner. And every room you walk into, every store, every mall, the temperature is between here and here. 4-degree range. You're a little warm inside, put on a coat. It's raining outside, put on a... When it's raining, I'd like to look up and have the rain come on my face. Drop down. When it's snowing, I want to catch snowflakes in my mouth. When it's a little bit cold out, I'll feel a little bit cold. No, I'm not a homeless person that could die from it. So I'm not saying this works for everybody. Right. I'm saying I have the luxury that I can feel what it is to be cold. If I'm hot and I'm sweating, let me feel it. And at the end of the day, I'm saying I experience life. And it can take an absurd level, but I'm still proud of this. New York City, you walk down the street, you pass a pizza shop, you smell the pizza. A bakery, you smell the bread. Mm-hmm. You walk past an alley, you smell the urine. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so New York is alive, not only in sights, stimulating your visual senses, in sounds. Yeah, there's a siren. Yeah, there's a car honking. Yeah, there's noisy people around you. Mm-hmm. These are other people of your species. This is what it is to be human. Mm. So your sight, your sound, your taste, there are people rubbing into you because the streets are crowded. Your sense of touch. So for me, all of these senses remind me I'm alive, and while the chemistry of them will be logical, the feeling of them is not. And I think the greatest art, be it music, storytelling, painting, sculptures, issues forth from all that is not logical in our lives. Mm. So I want to make sure there's some fraction of us who, I don't mind if they're also logical, but I would not want that to supplant what might be the deepest depths of their feelings. It's like Van Gogh he was bipolar, or he was manic depressive. This is well known. Mm-hmm. He knew it. He was also suicidal. He wrote to his doctor saying, I'm suicidal, please help me out here. Mm-hmm. He knew this, ultimately died from suicide, shot himself. Mm-hmm. You could say, I can go back in time and cure that. Is he still going to paint the way he did? Do we know what the connection is between his mental state and his creativity? Between his highly productive period? Did he know he was going to die, and so he said, I got to get this out of me? Right. None of that is logic. On top of that, truly great leaps in scientific imagination do not come from logic. They come from someplace else. Einstein's relativity. Yes, the calculations are 100% logical. But to even have the idea in the first place, he didn't just get it. Oh, let me logically get from point A to point B, and A is classical physics and B is quantum physics. No. There are leaps, creative leaps that had to be taken. So, because if everything were logical, you could just logically derive all discoveries. And one of the great things about discoveries are they happen in the minds of geniuses who see what everyone else sees, but think what no one else has thought. And think about feelings. This year, this is the 50th anniversary of going to the moon. We showed photos of Earth from the moon. The famous Earthrise was December 1968. Other photos by later astronauts. Do you know the environmental movement began only after we saw the picture of Earth from space?
Oh, wow. Makes sense.
The Environmental Protection Agency, 1970. The Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, leaded gas was banned, all that between 1969 and 1973, right while we were going to the moon. We went to the moon to discover the moon, to explore the moon, but we looked back and discovered Earth for the first time. Not as a color-coded globe with countries delineated on it, but as nature wanted us to see it, just with clouds and land and oceans, where political boundaries, political divisions, racial divisions, religious divisions are untenable when you have that view. Right. And when I think this way, I'm not thinking logically. I'm thinking emotionally, thinking spiritually.
Right.
So, yeah, we need more logic in the world, but not as something that will replace all the rest of what it is that makes humans, what it is to make being human such a beautiful thing. I'm sorry.
No.
Ran my mouth for 10 minutes.
And
there.
I appreciate that because I have struggled with that, and that you prefaced it with a very accurate statement, which I never really took into. I actually had a huge not fallout, but like I was on the internet, and Tupac is my favorite rapper of all time, right? And so I was on this guy's podcast, and I was saying it just wasn't that deep to me, but it was my favorite. Like it made me feel right. And when people
Tupac
heard
wasn't
that,
deep,
yeah,
but made you feel,
yeah,
but you liked his music,
yeah. And so, because relative to what I view as deep as a 32-year-old man, what he was saying wasn't that deep to me. But what I realized when you hear the backlash of Tupac fans and like they're talking,
you got on their list,
100%. And I'm like, yo, he's my favorite rapper. I mean, yeah, of all time. And so. But like listening to their stories, and then my sister called me. She's a big Tupac fan, and she's like
you made enemies even in the family.
100%. And what I realized,
you made enemies in the
100%, 100%. But what I realized in listening to those people, because I'm not perfect, and then correlating to what you said was exactly that deeply human experience is exactly that. It's deep. It is the fact that you can connect across generations. He could say something in 1992 that could resonate with somebody in 2019 and make them feel something. That's exactly what you're 100% right. Exactly what it means to be human. And so I 100% recant. I recant.
Oh, okay, okay. Mm-hmm.
But that's
almost not allowed in modern times.
Oh,
you
definitely
say it once,
not. It's
that's
over.
it. Your brand. It's over.
It's over.
You're out. You delisted, unfriended.
100%. He canceled. Man, so I don't have a lot of time with you left. So I definitely want to tackle some of the.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah, I should be more respectful of you. It's your podcast.
No. You're here. That's respectful enough. Don't worry about it. But I want to tackle some of the questions that I have about modern day science.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. And so this is kind of what I have surmised, and you can tell me if I'm off in this in my understanding of it, okay? Because it kind of correlates with I'm not a huge believer in free will, right? To a certain extent. I believe you have the option to pick up that hat or not. But tell me if I'm way off. So when you're talking about space-time, right, and the space-time continuum, we're traveling through it, and from a macro view, it looks like we're Noodles, right?
Yeah, if you want to go the four-dimensional view, any snapshot of you frozen in time, that's just a picture. But imagine every instant of your life were photographed, right? So, and you can lay them one right after another, and then you'd have this timeline of your life where you're moving through it.
Right.
And if you could see that, you would be this noodle.
Right.
And you would intersect other noodles, and that would be where your what's called world line intersects with another person. So, for example, when you cross the street, you don't die because the truck that was on that street was there 10 minutes earlier.
Right.
So the noodle that is the truck crossed that place in space at a different time than you did.
Right.
So you're separated in time, even though you were occupying the same space.
Right.
In that way, you did not die.
Right.
So we are together now because our two noodles have intersected in time and space.
Right.
And that's how we can have this conversation. So you can think of it that way, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to make sure if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, and I was watching this thing on, I forget what it was, but Brian Greene kind of explained it like,
The physicist, the Columbia physicist,
So,
colleague and friend.
So how we move through space is how we move through time. So relative in vast amounts of space away from each other, our nows can somehow be misaligned depending on how we're moving.
There is no now.
Right. So
There's no universal now.
Okay, so
there's only the now for you.
Yes, and so this is what trips me out, and part of why I really love science and fell in love with it. If there's no universal now, like mine and your nows could be misaligned, depending, whatever, on our output.
Depends on who's observing it.
Right. So if that's the case, then you're just occupying this big universal soup, right?
A noodle soup.
Noodles. Right. And so, in a sense, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, if this is accurate physically, or is it just that I make a jump that I shouldn't make? Everything that was happening is happening, and everything that will happen is also happening.
So if you want to think of some meta time,
right,
then you can say your life, and you want to believe that this noodle is predetermined. That means you are always being born, you're always dying, you're always living out every moment of your life.
Right.
And in this moment, we just happen to be prisoners of the present.
Right.
Forever trapped between an inaccessible past and an unknowable future.
Mm.
So, because we don't have access. Mm-hmm. We have access to 3 spatial dimensions. I can run forward and backwards, left, right, up, and down. Mm-hmm. But I can't go forward or backwards in time. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why I say we're prisoners. You can imagine that we're just noodles, and we just find a place in that noodle. And maybe if we could travel, quote, in time, you'd only be traveling to another place in that noodle. Mm-hmm. You go back to middle school, or you go forward into your deathbed. Right. There is a famous novel that became a movie on this very subject, written by Kurt Vonnegut. Mm. It's called Slaughterhouse-Five.
Slaughterhouse-Five. I remember that.
Check out the movie.
I will.
Okay, if you don't have the book, I'm sure you can find. It's a weird title.
Right.
Slaughterhouse-Five. Mm-hmm. It's about exactly this. What happens is, and ever since I saw that movie, I've wanted this to happen to me. The main character is out on his backyard, and he sees a light in the sky, and it's aliens, and they beam him up to their world.
I definitely want that to happen to me too.
Okay, yeah, I sit out under the stars all the time. I look up, and I say, aliens, please take me. I'm done here on Earth. But it turns out he's still on Earth. They just took him in that instant and put him in a zoo as an Earth zoo animal. But they outfitted his zoo cell with furniture from the Sears catalog, because they found the Sears catalog in his house. Mm-hmm. Oh, this must be how the humans live. So they got him a couch and a this and a that. Right. And they knew that humans mate, so they found him a woman, and it happened to be like the Playboy centerfold of the Playboy he was just looking at, because that was the image in his head that he still had. So they went and found her. So now the two of them are in this zoo cell, right. And they said, well, I got to get back to my place. No, you're still there. Wow. Well, what do you mean? Oh, you're outside of that timeline. And if you want, you could rejoin any part of that timeline you want. But in this hyperdimensional space, you are here in our zoo.
Wow.
And so the movie is him going in and out of his life. And he slowly gathers some knowledge of what will happen in his future because he's lived it 1,000 times. And then he tries to do something about it, but he can't because it's predestined.
Right.
So it's an interesting novel. I reckon Slaughterhouse-Five.
Definitely going to check that out.
Slaughterhouse-Five.
Definitely going to check that out. But just to double back,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm not thinking about things wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
Am I accurate in saying that, like, the actual physics of what's going on in our universe is like the past is happening and the future is also happening?
No, as far as we know, there's only the present. As far as we know.
Right.
We can imagine this noodle in space-time,
Right.
where that is just the sequence of photos of your life,
Right.
and that's predetermined. And you think you have free will to pick up the hat or put it down, but that's already predetermined.
Right.
And you in your free will, you pick it up. Well, you had always picked it up.
Right.
And you would always, in that moment, was thinking to yourself that you had free will and were choosing,
Right.
but in fact, it was predetermined you would pick up the hat.
I guess what I'm saying is, okay, say we're twins, the twin paradox thing. Okay, I go off and then I'm younger.
You come back and you're not as old as I am.
Right. Something happened to that time, right?
Not for you.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
lived your time and I lived my time.
That's what I'm saying.
So time got stretched or compressed.
So our nows don't really coincide
Right.
anymore.
When you're on your trip, your now does not correspond with my now. Your nows take longer.
Right.
That's a weird concept.
It is.
Yeah. So you come back and let's say we split off at 30. I'm now 40. You come back, you're 32. So if there's a speed you can go where you only age 2 years and I age 10. So everything about you, your metabolism, the ticking of your clock, your spaceship, everything about you is aging 1/5 as fast.
So is that a physical property of the universe that actually, like when I propagate through space, it's basically you're time traveling.
In a sense, you are accessing your future.
Right.
But you don't see yourself in the future. You're just younger, right? So it's not clear who would want to do this. You do it, and you come back in 100 years, and all your family is dead, and all your loved ones have long forgot about you.
Yeah.
Now you got to make friends again.
Is Interstellar? No.
The movie Interstellar had some time travel in it.
There was another one where they went on a spaceship and they were in pods, and one of the pods broke with the guy, and he came back and he unlocked another girl's pod. You didn't see that one?
I missed that movie. I remember when it came out.
It's pretty cool.
I remember when it came out.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's funny. But all right, so
right. So should he have unlocked her pod because
No,
he wanted companionship?
yeah, he did.
Right.
And they ended up working out.
Oh, now I got to see the movie now.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's
Okay,
good. I liked it.
all right.
it. But no, you don't unlock that pot. That's real selfish. So all right.
it was a ship where they were in suspended animation until wherever
they were in like
their destination.
hyper sleep or something like that. Yeah. No, that'd be awful. That'd be terrible. But all right, so dark matter. I know you probably sick of talking about this kind of stuff, but for us laymen, it's all interesting stuff. So for people that don't know, dark matter is it's mass that is detectable but not detectable.
No, it shouldn't be named dark matter.
Okay.
You should just call it Fred.
Fred.
We don't know what
Fred
we don't know anything about it.
Got you.
So call it something that doesn't imply we know anything about it.
Got you.
Dark matter implies that it's matter. We don't even know if it probably is, but we don't know.
Right.
What it really is dark gravity.
Dark gravity.
85% of all the gravity in the universe has no known origin. Can't see it, doesn't interact with our stuff other than through gravity. It's dark gravity.
Right. It's a mind-blowing concept, and
Well, it's just a frontier.
Right.
It's something out there that we don't know what it is. And I think a lot of the universe is mind-blowing, but I'm just saying, when you don't know something, that's a very common state when you're on the frontier of science.
As a young person, you learn in science about hypothesis and an educated guess. So what would your educated guess be about what dark matter is?
A new class of particles that doesn't interact with our own particles.
Really?
And that's if you're a betting person and the over-under, that's the one where most of us are leaning towards.
And is that what?
Because not all particles, there's no law that says they have to interact with each other.
That's true.
Or even with light. And the problem with dark matter is it doesn't interact with light. It doesn't interact with our matter chemically. It doesn't even interact with itself chemically. You get planets by atoms combining with each other and condensing and making objects. Dark matter, whatever it's composed of, does not even combine with itself. So we don't know what it is.
I can't even.
Yeah, it's a frontier. It's a great frontier. It's what keeps us all waking up and running to our office every morning.
I hope one day that I figure out.
Live long enough to.
Just somebody. We figured it out.
Me too. In fact, my biggest reason, other than family and loved ones, for wanting to live into the future is to see what new progress we've made.
FOMO.
And in that way, I can, because what keeps me awake at night, because I get asked occasionally, what question you want to see answered in the universe? And my question is, I want the question answered that I don't even know yet to ask. Because that question will only arise on the landscape of the next discovery that is yet to happen.
That's like in the early 1900s when they felt like they figured physics out, and then all of a sudden they find quantum mechanics.
Exactly. So we got this.
Right.
Just a few decimal places just to tidy up the loose ends.
Right.
And within a few years, quantum physics was discovered.
That's a beautiful thing. My mother asked a question.
Your mother's asking questions.
My mother asked. I told her I was having you on, and she asked a question.
Love to talk to moms.
Right. She said, "I want to know if he thinks space travel will ever accelerate at the same rate as it did in the 60s and in the 80s."
No.
And she said, "If not, why?"
Yeah.
She anticipated you saying no.
Yeah, apparently. So problem is, and I was alive during the 60s and 70s, and the way we remember that period is that, we're Americans, we're explorers, and this is in our DNA, and we're going to explore.
Right.
That's the cleansed version of that episode. Mm-hmm. The real version is we're at war with the communists, and they're godless, they're godless species of human who eat their babies. Make up whatever you want about them. That was part of the scare factors that existed. Mm-hmm. And it was in the 1950s where we put God on our currency.
Yeah.
And in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right. Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, individual. I got put in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. Money, one nation under God, put in the 1950s to distinguish us from them. They were eating away at our self-image, our self-understanding. So they said they're going to start a space program, which they did. They had the first satellite, the first non-human animal, the first human, the first woman, the first black person, a Cuban communist. They had the first space station. They kicked our ass in almost every milestone in space. And we said, all right, we got to do something that really set the record straight here. And so what did we do? We said we're going to the moon. We got to the moon. We said, we win. Even though they beat us in every other milestone. They even came up with the famous rocket equation, which tells you how big your engines have to be relative to the payload you're trying to put in space. And the engines grow exponentially the bigger is your payload. Because half the fuel is just to put to a higher orbit the fuel you haven't burned yet. And so this is a runaway process. I have to add more fuel. Well, what fuel is going to then put that into orbit? So it's a fascinating runaway process. But the Russians invented the rocket equation. Point is,
it's rocket science.
What?
It's rocket science.
Right. It is. Yeah. As this T-shirt says, as a matter of fact, it is rocket science. So what was I saying?
Why we won't?
Oh, why we won't? So we went to the moon to beat the Russians. There was no other motivation. I don't care what people tell you. I don't care how people remember it. That's why we did it. And Kennedy's speech, put a man on the moon, stirring speech. Go to an earlier part of that same speech. If the events of recent weeks, Yuri Gagarin had just come out of orbit. The events of recent weeks are any indication of the impact of this adventure on the minds of men everywhere. We need to show the world the path to freedom over the path of tyranny. It was the battle cry against communism. And when you're at war and you feel threatened, money flows like rivers. So money flowed to get us to the moon. Once we saw the Russians are not going to the moon, the Apollo program ended. We went from Apollo 11 to Apollo 17 minus Apollo 13 and Apollo 8, no, 10 and 11 didn't go. So 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. Right. So Apollo 13 never landed on the moon, but they went to the moon, circled around, and then came back. Point is, war historically has been the great motivator. If you want to go engage in space exploration in the way that we imagine in our science fiction stories, there's got to be some geopolitical reason why we would be doing it. And I don't see that, and I don't see that.
That's so sad.
It is very sad.
That's unfortunate, man.
I agree.
Well, I wish I could help change things, man, but
well, you are.
One podcast at a time.
One podcast at a time. And I think you lived up to the subtitle. What's next? The title of it? What's next?
Now what?
Oh, no, sorry. Now.
Yeah. It's close. I mean, it's
I was close. Okay. Now what? I mean, I think we did some now what in there.
Oh, definitely.
And your homework is to find Slaughterhouse-Five.
Definitely.
And read that or see the movie.
I'll do both.
Yeah. And do I have homework? Did you give me homework?
I didn't give you any homework, man.
Give me some homework.
Right now? Okay. I got a new EP coming out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you'll like it, too.
Are you going to drop it?
I know you'll like
when
this
are you dropping
song because there's a line. It's like in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so there's a line in there that says, I'm talking to a girl, and I said, I feel like it's the first, it's like I seen the first, it's like I seen the stars for the first time. I feel like Galileo. You'll like that line.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice line.
You'll like that line.
That's a nice line.
Yeah, man.
You know, there was an Italian love story. Actually, had Jeremy Irons in it, where he plays an astrophysicist.
Oh.
But he's dying, and his girlfriend or significant other doesn't know it. And he has to travel, so he goes to Europe. But he sends emails that have drop dates on them. So she keeps getting them. But he dies while this is going on, and she doesn't know it. He's died and gone and buried, and she doesn't know it. But she keeps getting these. So he remains alive even after he died. Just like starlight that is moving through space. That star could have died. But you won't know about it until that first frontier of its light from its death reaches you. Until then, it's just a star living out its life.
One of the more brilliant episodes on your Cosmos thing was when they was talking about ghosts of the past, I think.
Oh, yeah. So that's precisely the concept.
Yeah.
That the night sky is a field of ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Beautifully done.
That's an idea that Andrian and Steven Soder developed. Andrian is the widow of Carl Sagan and has been a creative center in all the cosmoses.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh, is there going to be another Cosmos?
Yeah. So we're still trying to find a date.
Right.
We filmed it. It's in post-production.
Gotcha.
And
Hollywood is hurry up and wait.
But plus it's awkward because Disney just bought Fox and it was going to air on Fox, but they bought the flagship. No, sorry, they didn't buy the flagship, but they bought National Geographic, which was a Fox property.
Gotcha.
And it will go internationally on National Geographic, but it's supposed to air on Fox first. So there's scheduling issues that need to be resolved, if for no other reason, because Disney just bought half of the franchise. And so Cosmos got orphaned in two different places.
Got you.
Yeah.
Business ruins everything. Well, man, I appreciate the time, man. I really do.
Oh, man.
Pleasure is always mine, my brother.
It's great. And we... I think not enough of the word. By the way, dare I say, you're not the first ex-NFL player who's cared about thinking deeply that I've had and interviewed. In our early days, I had some folks from the New York Giants. In fact, 4 of them came into this office and sat here. It was awkward because I only had one microphone at the time. It was early days. But one of them majored in math. Another one loved philosophy. And you don't get that watching it on the field. No one wants to ask you that.
Yeah.
They just want to know what'd you do the 40 in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame because people have lives. They have thoughts. They have emotions. They do have states of wonderment. And
I think that's the beautiful thing about the age we're in right now is that
you have access?
Well, you have access, but everybody isn't what they do. You know what I mean? So like when I go to the cash register and I'm checking out, like I know you have dreams. You might have a YouTube page and you're grinding at that, but this is just
right.
You're trying to make
Keep the
ends
lights
meet.
on.
Yeah, trying to keep the lights on. That's beautiful,
Right.
man. I could talk to you for hours, man, but you have things to do.
Well, good luck with the podcast.
I appreciate it, man.
Dude,
I appreciate it.
You're probably
all.
well connected, get good people.
Yeah, I mean, you're here.
And you do it out of Houston?
I travel, so like
Travel
I go
with
to
it.
New York, I go to LA because
Okay.
I mean not a lot
A lot of people in LA.
yeah. So I do it all over, man. But we have kind of like a reoccurring theme in the podcast, man. So my mother was my first episode, right?
Oh my God, that's so
amazing.
sweet. That's the sweetest thing.
It was a
ever.
good episode too. And so from everybody, we've had Snoop Dogg on. We've had a lot of actually had Victor Glover. He's a NASA astronaut.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
All
awesome.
right. Cool.
So, but all of them.
Which you can get in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Astronaut Central.
I tapped that
You
well.
throw a stick, you hit an astronaut. Yeah.
But everybody.
There's still novelties here in New York, even if the run of the mill in Houston. Yeah.
But everybody on the podcast has said the same thing at the end. We're trying to get Jim Carrey on the podcast, so we ask everybody to look in the camera and advocate to Jim Carrey or advocate for the podcast.
Jim Carrey, the actor comedian.
That's the guy.
Oh wow.
Trying to get him on. So
I'm trying to get him.
once he comes on mine, I'll tell him to holler at you.
You tell him I'm looking for him.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, you actually that's a real thing.
You got to do it. Like, so we're gonna chop up a video and I can have
Okay.
everybody
Okay.
talk to Jim for me.
Okay. Jim Carrey. Do you know when he was on In Living Color?
Yeah.
He was one of the actors on Living Color, and in that time he was named James Carrey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Check out.
I didn't know that.
Back in the '90s, early '90s. Check out In Living Color.
I was a fan.
Yeah. It was.
That's when J-Lo was a fly
Yes, she
girl.
was.
Yeah.
J-Lo was a fly girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So James, or is it Jim Carrey? Arian is asking for you, and don't let him down, because he's got a podcast worth listening to, worth being on. Check it out.
My man. I appreciate
Right.
you coming on, man. If there's anything I could ever do, I'm
I know how
at
to
your
find you.
beck and call, man.
No, I define you.
Much love, brother. Yes, sir.